Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nitchman.
Our guest today is Andrea Carter of Wealthy Woman Warrior. Her goal is to help empower 1 million women to reach their full potential by 2025. Wealthy Woman Warrior is a one-stop training ground helping you reach your full potential. You'll gain clarity, get unstuck, and reach your personal, professional, and economic potential. Find out more, visit wealthywomanwarrior.com. Hi, Andrea. Thank you for coming to Savvy Business Radio for our Heartbeat of the World segment. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. And I'm excited to be on with you today. You're a wonderful, wonderful interviewer. And what a delight for me to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. And I am so blessed to have you here today. You are doing wonderful work out there helping women and men. You have created a Wealthy Woman Warrior. And it's you have a number of courses that really help women get in touch with 5 pillars in particular that sometimes hold women back. Now, interestingly enough, before the interview, you mentioned that men are also attracted to this because these pillars aren't just gender related to one gender or another, but sometimes women need a little bit more help in some of the pillars. But before we get to sharing all that, share with our audience a little bit about you and what brought you to creating a Wealthy Woman Warrior.
Absolutely. Thank you. So my background's in psychology. And for me, I've been working in mindset and training mindset with high caliber athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs, sales teams, you name it. I have been invited in and tested the mindset training that I have been delivering for 15 years. And what happened for me nearly 3 years ago now was I had been invited down to be a guest speaker at a woman's retreat. And at that woman's retreat, there was a UN representative there who spoke before me. And what she was listing essentially was the statistics around women-run businesses.
Wow.
And the statistics were alarming. They shocked me. They shocked me so much and I'm that woman who I want to know why all the time. So I do a lot of research and I read a lot. So I had, I heard her say that only 2% of women-run businesses ever make it to 7 figures. She then also shared that only 3% of women make it to 500,000 in their business, and that 83% of women don't ever reach 100,000.
Oh my gosh.
So those statistics were so alarming to me that I went home, and what happened was that I started doing case studies. I started speaking with as many women as I possibly could. And originally, Wealthy Woman Warrior, and I also have a company called Success on Fire, but those 2 companies were primarily mindset trainings. And when I got home, and then after I'd spoken with close to 350 women now, I could not turn a blind eye anymore to the way that women were, what education we were getting, what trainings we were going to, what coaching we were going to. And what I realized was that we do not have the right pieces in place for women to actually reach gender parity. And I have a 7-year-old daughter. And, women burned bras for gender parity before I was even born.
Yeah.
But here's my 7-year-old daughter, and I'm looking at her going, oh, goodness, she might actually have to deal with some of the same things that our mothers or grandmothers faced. And I just, based on the statistics and the conversations and the case studies, I couldn't turn a blind eye. And so I call it that I pivoted for parity. I actually did a TEDx talk on this. And I converted my entire Wealthy Woman Warrior business into a collaborative online training facility.
Yeah.
And it was when I was doing my research with those women that it was very apparent what the 5 areas of vulnerability women were faced with. And those 5 areas are mindset, communication, sales, technology, and financial literacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, the other thing that was really interesting too that I found, and we had started to talk about this a little bit, was that women are also not collaborating. Mm-hmm. And the McKinsey Institute actually released a study in June of 2017 that stated very clearly that if women do not start collaborating, it will take another 100 years for us to reach gender parity.
Wow.
So I started really investigating that. It was one of the questions that I asked a lot from the women that I was interviewing, the case studies that I was doing. Mm-hmm. And what I decided to do was, instead of, I knew that mindset was one of the pieces, but instead of going and trying to create a platform where I taught everything and did it all so that I could try and be it all, I looked for women, because women want to be mentored by women. Mm-hmm. So I looked for women that had written books. I looked for women who had programs that were up and running. I looked for women that were, across the country doing something that was exciting. And then I looked to them to help share other women across the globe. And originally I thought, okay, because I'm based in Canada, originally I thought, okay, we're just going to look at Canada. But here's the thing. If I'm doing an online training place, that means that the good old World Wide Web, we can actually make changes globally.
Yeah.
And what they say is that if women increase their economic potential marginally, so that's like a $30,000 to $40,000 increase, which for some people that seems a lot. But in comparison to men, that's actually not when it comes to salary, okay? Mm. So if we can marginally increase our income, we can actually generate $12 trillion worth of global GDP.
Wow.
So those numbers are like, they're mind-blowing for me.
Yeah. You will transform the globe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I recognize we've only just begun. We've only just launched. We've only really started, what our platform will grow into.
Yeah.
But like everything, you need to start somewhere.
Yeah. I love this topic, and what's bringing out for me so many things. When I first got started in my business now 6 years ago, it was very interesting. We talked earlier before the interview how sometimes women have not been a great help or support for each other, especially the Gen Xers kind of feel this, I got to take on the world by the bootstraps and do it ourselves. Actually, I think it's an American myth that actually men have actually also believed, but we go about it a little bit differently on how we do it. And what's interesting is the women feminist movement of we're going to go out there and we're going to be strong, just like men. Sometimes they feel, well, we have to hate men to do that. And really, that's not necessary. No. We all have our great talents and gifts. And what I like about what you're saying here is that it's really about learning some of the skills that maybe we're vulnerable at, but we can learn just as well and bring our great gifts and talents into the marketplace and increase the globe and make it better, the world better for all of us. And also, this recalls for me, Andrea, when I first got started, there was a great friend of mine who we sat down over coffee, and you talked about the numbers and how many women don't reach 100,000. Well, my first goal, starting my financial consulting business, was to make $100,000 in 1 quarter, which I thought was reasonable. Considering in corporate, I made $50,000 as a manager. I figured this should be a piece of cake. Yep. But it was interesting. My friend and I were all sitting at the table, and one friend said, "Who do you think you are? $100,000." Another friend said, "And you're consulting, and $100 an hour? Gee, who would pay you for that?" Now, they weren't trying to be mean. They were being helpful. They thought, hey, we want you to be successful, but if you overcharge, no one's going to show up. But then when I started to talk to men, it was interesting that men kind of have this, I don't know if they even always believe it or they're kind of taught negotiating skills. They're like, yeah, I'm worth that. Yeah, sure. No, I'm $500 an hour. That's it. And it's this kind of bravado that sometimes lacks in the female or women community. What have you observed in working with both genders as some of the discrepancies that maybe women need to work on a little bit more?
Sure. So, it's interesting because I have worked with both genders. I wasn't always just exclusively working with women, and I still work with a lot of men. But it's interesting, fundamentally our brains are wired differently. And, I know that there's a lot of women out there who will fight me on this because they don't want to think that their brains are wired differently than men. And while, I appreciate the reasoning behind it, and I understand it, because for a long while until I looked at the research, I didn't want to be considered cut and pasted or put into a box either. But fundamentally, when we look at our research and we look at what's happening with neurodevelopment, we know that women's brains are wired differently than a male brain. And men have compartments and are able to compartmentalize many, many things. They have, I kind of joke, and I often joke with my husband, and I often joke with my, male clients, and I say, okay, well, you have the wife box or the partner box, you have the kid box, you have the work box, you have the sex box, you have the money box. Women don't have that. Our brains
are open.
Well, our brains are it's just a ball of wire. I mean, it's a ball of yarn, or everything connects to everything connects to everything. So that is why, and I'm going to joke about this, but that's why a woman in the throes of passion could sit back and go, oh, did I remember to do X, Y, Z? And it's so, men do not do that. When men are in the throes of passion, they're in the throes of passion, and so, I'm joking about this, but I think it's really important, and it's a fundamental difference. And when it comes down to it, when we look at where women are struggling, yes, they're struggling in those 5 areas of vulnerability. We know that those 5 areas, once women get training that is relevant, because this is also, a problem that we're not getting training that's relevant, that's here today. That sets us up for what's coming tomorrow.
Now, is it because it doesn't exist, or is it because women don't go to those trainings?
Well, I would say there's probably a bit of both. I know, if you look at our textbooks that we receive in university or in college, those textbooks are at least 20 years out of date.
Wow.
And a lot of universities and colleges are moving to online training because they know that they have to get things up and moving. They know that fundamentally the way that we learn has changed.
Yeah.
And corporations understand this too, but they're not actually serving their employees in a way that is helpful yet. And this is something that we have started doing a lot of in Toronto, because most trainings that women get are do a weekend. You get, 4 hours, you get, even if you go to a university course and maybe you're in a course for, 6 to 8 weeks, let's say.
Yeah.
The information that you're getting is typically, it only lasts for a certain amount of time, and then there is no help to continue to move that process forward. So, even when we look at a lot of the coaching world that's out there right now, a lot of it's done online. A lot of it lacks, here, have a Facebook group, or here, have my email training. That's not enough. We need one-to-one connection. And before we got into our training, we were talking about, what happened? Why did women all of a sudden decide that they needed to have this badge of honor of going it alone?
Yeah.
Why do so many women go it alone? And when you look at, again, business development, collaboration is the fastest way to harbor change.
Absolutely.
It is the fastest way for businesses to grow. Men use this technique all the time. Women do not. Women have adopted this competition, competitive aspect in a different way that men have. Men can compete and leave everything on the field and then return to work, family, whatever it is, and go through their day because their brains can compartmentalize in a very easy way. Women fundamentally who have learned how to compartmentalize have been labeled a certain label that you and I both know. It sounds like witch, but it starts with a B.
Yeah.
And that stigma is also not okay.
Yeah, it's not. But here's the other thing. Have you exhibited in your being with your clients and teaching how women sometimes, and this is something I did, I don't know if your clients have, kind of put on the male persona? Because I've been in a lot of boardrooms and I will find myself being like a man, not just compartmentalizing, which I can do well at work. I get super focused.
Yep.
But I turn in this male energy where I get completely unfeminized. I come home, my partner's like, could you become a woman now because you're with me? And Brian, I go to the restaurant with my partner, Brian, and be like, can you let me, get the seat? Or, so it's hard to let that go. Have you found that to be with your clients as well?
Absolutely. And it all depends on the profession as well. So I work with a lot of lawyers. I work with a lot of banking industry, financial industry, tech industry. All of those industries have essentially, we've kind of shaped our women so that you cut all of that stuff off and you shove it down so that you can be seen as this professional powerhouse. And in so doing, that is really what's keeping us from being able to move forward. We talked about how, before we started our interview, we talked about how Gen Xers were the first generation that quite literally raised themselves. And this was the trend. It was, when women initially went into the workforce in the 80s, they were very collaborative. Women used to support each other. They used to help each other out to make this whole getting into the workforce possible. And then as things started to roll and we were competing for spots, we were competing for jobs, I've heard many women say, well, I just pretended I didn't have kids. And it didn't matter what so-and-so was doing. I knew that I needed to make it to here, or I needed to, do X, Y, Z to get ahead. And so it was like adopting a lot of the masculine traits. And I think in that adaptation, what's happened is that women have learned that they need to have the badge over having happiness. And, there's studies that show that there's a direct correlation that by the age of 40, most women have a steady decline on their happiness levels in comparison to men. It's almost like a complete, it looks like an X, and women start out fundamentally happy. But by the age of 40, they just slide all the way back down. And it's because they've done this study for 30 years, over 1.8 million people across the globe in third world countries. So we know that this isn't just a North America thing. This isn't just the United States. This isn't just Canada. This is global. Men start out rating their happiness lower, but by age of 40, they're progressively getting happier.
Now, what's going on with them that they feel happier as they get older?
Well, I think it has to do with their worth. I actually think that there is a direct correlation based on my findings and based on my research between a woman's happiness and a woman's economic potential. And what's interesting about this, and you brought this up, is that women are fundamentally struggling with owning their value.
Absolutely. Yes.
Whereas men are like, well, no, I deserve this, right?
Yeah.
And we do have men that struggle with confidence. That's not to say we can't generalize everybody.
Yeah.
However, there is a tendency for women to devalue themselves and to go back to that place of being grateful for just having a job versus actually showing up, and you don't have to come across in the masculine tendency.
No.
It's not an outward projection. It's an inward piece of asking questions and being able to say, well, actually, these are my rates. This is what I do. And having mindset, communication, sales, financial literacy, and technology training so that they feel fundamentally secure in their ability to show up and say, these are my fees.
Wow. These 5 pillars are so important. I very early on realized I needed certain tools. I needed to know how to market. I needed sales right up front, or my business is not going to rock and roll. So I knew that. I got someone to help me with sales, train me and all that. I got the necessary tools, but it wasn't until a year out that I could ask for a sale. And I knew exactly what I had to do, but I couldn't ask for it. To me, it was almost like prostituting myself. It was weird because when you get a paycheck for years and years and years, you don't even think about, and I heard this from my men friends that when I asked later on, they said, hey, when I go into an interview and even if it's a job related and they say, hey, this is worth 50,000, I say, oh, okay, that's my starting point. Okay, I want 70. And to me, all the years I've been either in corporate or now in my business, I never even thought I could ask for more. Whatever was put before me, I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. I'll take it. That's what the job pays.
Yep.
But then when you take that mindset that you've been an employee for years, now you go into a business and now you got to say to someone, this is what I do. Here's what I'm worth. And then they say no. You think, oh, see, I'm worthless. And you take that kind of talking in your head and you go to the next person and you can't ask for the sale. And so I see how mindset tied with technology and sales and communication and finance are all so congruent and necessary to be successful. And also it ties into what you said about how we take in things differently than how men might perceive it or take it in.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. So what just happened there, that bang that you just heard was a book falling off my shelf. And the book is The Beauty of Discomfort. And it's written by a woman named Amanda Lang. And some of you might know Amanda. She's a Canadian icon, but she did a lot of work and was on television with Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, I love him.
And
Yeah.
The book that fell off, the beauty of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that is so critically important about what you've just shared.
Mm-hmm.
So women do not like to feel discomfort. Women do not like to feel out of control. We don't like to feel stuck. We don't like to feel as if we don't know the answer to something.
Mm.
One of the fundamental issues is that instead of us processing these emotions that we've pushed down, or these thoughts, or these feelings, or beliefs about what our value is that we cut them out. Think about it. If you don't like someone, what do? You cut them out of your life. If you don't like an experience, you cut it out. If something's hard, you cut it out. You don't try. What do we tell our children when children aren't playing nice? Well, just don't play with that kid.
Mm.
What are we teaching? What are we learning?
Wow.
We're learning that it's not okay to feel. We're learning that anything that's hard, we should just cut out.
Wow.
And so we have women who are rock stars, like blows my mind, rock stars
Mm-hmm.
who do not feel valuable.
Wow. So explain for me though, for men, you said that, we don't like to feel uncomfortable. Is it because men are taught to be rough and tumbly, go punch, you fall, get back up, don't cry, keep going? Are they taught to be more uncomfortable and be okay with pain or uncomfortableness?
I don't know that they're taught differently.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they experience it differently. And really from the perspective of when men are uncomfortable, they will go and learn. They will go figure it out. They will be like, okay, this is bugging me. I need to know the answer. I need to understand why. Mm-hmm. Or they essentially will look for a solution. Mm-hmm. Women, and we see this, look at it from this perspective. Mm-hmm. So the best friend that does something behaviorally that's unacceptable, mm-hmm. she's no longer the best friend. She's cut out. Right?
Yeah.
Guys won't necessarily do that. I mean, it would have to be something fundamentally, against their values to cut another person out of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas really what's happening is that, and we see this, look at it on social media. Go on to Instagram. Instagram, it blows my mind how many people will say, if something isn't working, cut it out. You don't like it, stop doing it. There are all these posts where it's all about just get rid of it, get it out of your life. Sure. And so you look at that in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Look at that in the corporate world and look at what women are doing to women in the corporate world. We are so disconnected now, and women are feeling so much shame and walking around just, guarded with our armor on. The reason we are called wealthy woman warrior, warrior definition. And I chose this because people were like, why would you choose warrior when that's about combative fighting?
Yeah.
But a tribe of women warriors, they differentiate between thinking big and collaborating. They understand, if you look at the warrior as a collective, they would celebrate their small successes. That was how larger victories were won. They understood that it wasn't always battling it out that was going to make the biggest impact. Sometimes coming together was actually, and hearing each other and supporting each other and being okay with differences. That was how they empowered. The way that they made things happen was through collaboration.
Yeah. Just like men, but differently, because we go about it differently. And this is so important. I'm glad that you came to share this, because it's not just the 5 pillars. It starts with the center of it being community. Yeah. And we need to get back to that, instead of against one another, or what's the differences of they have this and that and whatever, but really look at what do we have in common and bring our different talents and gifts and perspectives together to the table, because all of the perspectives together can make the world better, because we all have different ways to look at it and help make things better, without 100%. Saying that it just has to be this way or that way.
Yeah, 100%. And it's been interesting, since I started Wealthy Woman Warrior with the 5 pillars and really looked at collaboration. I originally had a group of women that I thought were extremely collaborative. And it was interesting because when we started bringing on the other pillars that I identified, 3 of them decided it was too hard or didn't like it and left.
Wow.
Cut it out. Just cut it out. Right. And I have to respect that, to each their own. That's their choice. But what I've noticed now is that now that they've left, women who are on the platform, they are on the platform, and no matter what the issue is, no matter what we're trying to do, the vision is so strong. We know that we have to help women learn how to collaborate again. And that starts with us, which means that when something isn't working or when we need help, it's not holding it in and believing I'm bad or I haven't done a good enough job. Yeah. It's literally picking up the phone, not even texting. We've got the rule. You don't even text. You pick up the phone, you get on the phone and you say, hello, this is the situation. I either don't know what to do with it, or I need help, or how do we make this better?
Yeah. I love it.
And those things, it's been so uplifting. I can't even put it into words, how nurtured and supported and how far we've been able to get with collaborating.
Wow. And what I'm getting from all of this, that if women listening in were to realize that with the 5 pillars that you teach, coming together in community and being okay with being a little uncomfortable and going to the edge, and you're not going to die because you have these women, these wonderful women to support you and help you through it, that we can go lightning speeds ahead and help the globe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we do, with our pillars, every day, each pillar has an online call that you can get onto and ask questions. And it's interesting. So 5 days a week, we've got these calls where women can get on and be like, this is what's happening for me. How do I get this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
And the calls were interesting because even those calls, women would initially write in their answers, or write in their questions. They didn't actually want to like be on the call because they were shy, or they didn't. Again, it's the shame of not knowing the answer and wanting an answer. And so it was interesting because as things have progressed, now we actually have people online where people are talking and interacting, and that communicate, like the community and the communication is really starting to grow for that reason. Yeah. But I think it's so interesting because if we can let go of the shame, if we can let go of the blame, if we can let go of the hurt that we're holding on to that is actually keeping us stuck and keeping us from getting what we want, the world can change fundamentally.
Wow. Now, where can you start, Andrea? Say you're a woman who's not yet owning a business, but works in a corporate community where they feel they don't have this wonderful community of women. How can you start to build it themselves or be part of it? I mean, I think they should just go to your website and join your community. So they can, but what would be your advice to them?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I will say is you can go to wealthywomanwarrior.com/free-courses. And on that URL, that's how you can get into one of our free programs in one of the 5 pillars. So start there, because sometimes just learning about some of the fundamental things that we're talking about will actually help you. Because the piece about it is that it actually doesn't start with anybody else in the outside world. You know, we talk about being situational leaders, and everyone is a leader in their life, right? Every day you get up and you're leading someone, whether you want to admit to it or not, you are a leader. But situational leaders, you know, we talk about this in all of our leadership training courses. And I kind of bop around about it because situational leaders have an ability to climb to a place where they become influencers. But situational leaders cannot become influencers unless they are working on themselves. And one of the places that women can fundamentally start is by looking at what they really want, deciding that they deserve it, and choosing the path to identify what the hurt is, so that they can start showing up professionally, personally, and economically in a completely different way.
Wow. And I took a key word there, decide. So it's not just a matter of doing, but this first starts with the decision that I'm going to do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been such an instrumental, awesome conversation. I'm so glad you were able to share it. And I know it's going to help everyone listening in, men or women alike. Men have been very interested in your online courses as well. Again, share with them where they can go and get all this information.
Absolutely. So www.wealthywomanwarrior.com. And then if you want to get to the free courses, just do /free-courses.
Awesome. Well, Andrea, this has been such an enlightening talk. Thank you so much for coming today to Savvy Business Radio to share your wisdom.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.